trucks that explode, cars labeled unsafe at any speed, and of course, Dieselgate. Today on Idealist, here are some of the worst automotive recalls of all time. Let's go. So, over the years, there have been countless recalls due to gas tanks that would rupture during a collision and start on fire. And, of course, no one wants their car to burst into flames, but at least if your car blows up after an accident, it sorta kinda makes sense. And the 1996 Ford Ranger. Oh boy. Well, this thing would catch fire for a slightly more concerning reason. Owners of the all-American pickup reported that their trucks experienced a fiery death just before they put them in park. What? Apparently, this strange phenomenon was due to the problem with the ignition system, and it led to million with an M Rangers being recalled and several houses burning down in the act. There were several other Ford vehicles recalled in 1996 with similar issues, but none as bad as the Ranger. However, this wasn't the first Ford Ranger that was known to burst into flames for seemingly no reason whatsoever. A family in Georgia's 1985 Ranger caught fire in their driveway at 2 a.m., and that was about 8 hours after they had driven it last. That family would go on to form an internet group for the Association of Flaming Ford Owners. Hopefully Ford has fixed these extremely terrifying problems by now, but still, you won't see me driving any pre-2000s Rangers. And the next recall isn't about a fire, but more about a firewall. I'm talking about cybersecurity, folks. And with all the recent buzz and media over hacking and cybersecurity, it's a surprise that more people don't remember how Chrysler Fiat vehicles nationwide were being remotely hacked back in 2015. You see, the automaker ran into a class action lawsuit after drivers found that the Uconnect infotainment system on their cars were being taken over by hackers. And what's crazy is that these hackers were hitting closer to home than we first thought. You see, one driver in his Jeep Cherokee reported that he was cruising down the highway when suddenly his AC started blasting cold air. Then his radio switched on and started cranking a Ski Low song. And hey, at least it wasn't Lady Gaga, but still. The windshield wipers then started going absolutely nuts. And then the hacker actually appeared on his infotainment screen.
Did you miss me? Did you miss me?
Finally, they cut his transmission in the middle of the highway. And while the guy wasn't actually physically hurt, I bet that we can all agree, mentally, that's gotta take a toll on you. And the idea of two nerds behind a MacBook can hack your car's transmission is seriously a scary thought. And it's definitely the kind of thing that will shake your faith in your car. No doubt, but it still might not be as bad as the next malfunction, which is just blatantly unsafe. Because as one of the largest automakers in the world, it's only natural that Ford is gonna have a few recalls over the years. But some malfunctions are just plain inexcusable. For instance, the one that occurred in over 23,000 Fords between 1970 and 1980. Drivers reported that they would put their car into park and the transmission would accidentally slip into reverse and send their car hurtling backwards.
For real?
Now the problem, it was the detent in the shifter mechanism that was meant to separate the park and reverse positions. It would get rounded off. And this probably should have led to a recall of about 23 million vehicles, but Ford found a nifty little workaround, and this is pretty crazy. They sent out warning label stickers to car owners, which is insane. And people who had these faulty Fords eventually learned to double check the shifter engagement while holding down the brake pedal when starting their ignition. But the problem still led to over 1,000 injuries and nearly 100 deaths. And after years of legal battles with the NHTSA, Ford was never actually required to recall faulty vehicles. However, they have had to pay some serious cash in personal injury lawsuits. And while the next scandal didn't really put anybody into danger, it was just a sneaky move that seriously pissed off the EPA. And this is probably the most high-profile recall scandal in the last 10 years. Dieselgate. Yes, Dieselgate made worldwide headlines and has shaken many people's trust in the Volkswagen badge. Although it's still not the worst thing that Volkswagen has ever done. Basically, the Dieselgate scandal involved Volkswagen installing a defeat device in their vehicles that could detect when they were being tested. And that would then boost their performance metrics for the duration of the test. Known models that contained this device were the Volkswagen-made Audi A3, as well as the Volkswagen Jettas, the Beetles, which are YouTube girlfriends' favorites, the Golfs, and the Passats. All in all, Volkswagen admitted that they had installed this device on over 1 million cars worldwide. And Planet Earth was very pissed about this. And to think that the engineers at Volkswagen spent days, months, years building this serious piece of engineering, because apparently it monitored speed, engine operation, air pressure, and steering wheel position to identify whether or not it was in a test scenario. Mind blown. And if it determined that the car was being tested, the engine would run below normal power and performance to reduce emissions. In reality, some Volkswagen cars were emitting up to 40 times the approved level of nitrogen oxide in the US when running at normal capacity. And as a result, the EPA required those sneaky Germans to recall as many as 9 million vehicles worldwide. And they paid over $9.5 billion in settlements in the US alone. Now, it's been a few years since Dieselgate, and people are starting to crawl back towards the Volkswagen badge. But I'm sure that the EPA is keeping a very watchful eye on those guys over at Volkswagen. And as shocking as Dieselgate was, this next scandal, believe it or not, might have a leg up on it, since it literally directly led to the creation of the NHTSA. And you know that you have done something really bad when they have to create an entirely new government agency to make sure you don't screw up again. Corvairs, made between 1960 and 1964, had a rear engine and swing axle design that caused the rear wheel grip to lose control, and in many cases would cause the driver to lose control of the car completely and crash. This design flaw was first exposed by activist, actor, presidential candidate Ralph Nader in his book Unsafe at Any Speed. What a great title for a book. And after that book was published, GM apparently went after Nader in a smear campaign to try and discredit his findings. But to no avail, because Nasty Nader is still going strong today. And the outrage he caused over the Corvair directly led to the formation of the NHTSA. One thing, however, that he didn't mention in his book is that the Corvair also apparently had some very weak hinges that connected the hood to the frame of the car, causing the hood to pretty much just fly off like a paper airplane. And both design flaws made the 1960 Corvair a certified death trap. And sales of this car effectively dropped to zero after Nader's book hit the shelves. But if you really want to talk about cars that lose control, this next car was called back because it was taking drivers straight down the highway of hell. I know what you're gonna say already. I thought that Toyota, yes, the most reliable car company on the planet, would never be part of this video. And I would have thought you're right, but you're wrong, because they did have a malfunction on the Toyota Corolla that might be the most terrifying thing I've ever heard. In the 2010 Toyota Corolla, the gas pedal would sometimes stick down when in full throttle acceleration. That's right, 1 second, you're testing the limits of your four-banger, and the next thing you know, you're on the highway to hell. And if you've ever seen Runaway Car, which is a horribly made yet insanely awesome movie, it might as well have been about the 2010 Corolla. Imagine hitting top speeds and then not being able to stop. Scary. Eventually, Toyota had to recall 9 million cars because of the flaw, but only after 31 people lost their lives. So yes, most Toyotas are extremely reliable, but the 2010 Corolla is a freaky, demonic death machine. But hey, at least in that car, you could maybe possibly tuck and roll out of the door for safety, unlike these next cars, which just straight up hold you hostage. Yeah, this recall isn't as dangerous as it is more just funny, which at this point in the video, we kind of need some humor. And if you're enjoying it so far, please hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, because in 1995, Honda experienced a major problem with their seat belts, which involved the release button becoming cracked and essentially trapping drivers in their seats. Yes, this could potentially be dangerous if you should, for whatever reason, get in a collision and have to crawl out of your car. However, I think it's pretty funny just to imagine Joe Schmo yelling from the driveway that he's trapped until Susie Q comes out with a kitchen knife to cut the seatbelt and save the day.
What is going on?
That's what I dream about at night. That's the beginning of a love movie or a love song. No, but obviously you have to cut your seatbelt. You can't really use it anymore after that. Not surprisingly, Honda was forced to recall vehicles and fix the seatbelt problem, and thus stop holding people hostage in their own cars. And out of all of the recalls on this list, which one did you find the most horrifying? Let us know down in the comments. We're gonna be down there for the first couple hours after this video is released, answering all of your questions. And also, if you're new here, I'm Brad Danger, this is Ideal. Please subscribe and turn on that notification bell, especially if you love cars, trucks, and SUVs as much as we do. And don't forget to always keep living the ideal lifestyle.